The message arrived on a Tuesday morning, and it changed everything. Catherine Cole was sitting in her small office in Geneva when her computer made a sound she had never heard before. It was not the normal beep of an email or the ring of a video call. It was something deeper, something that seemed to hum through the walls themselves. She looked at her screen and saw words in a language she did not recognize. Then, slowly, the words shifted and changed until they became English. The translation was rough but clear enough. To the leaders of the species known as human, the Galactic Council of the Orion Arm requests your presence at Station Paramount. You will send one representative to speak for your kind. A transport vessel will arrive at your moon in 30 of your days. This is not optional. Catherine read the message 3 times. Then she picked up her phone and called the Secretary General of the United Earth Government. Within 6 hours, she was on a plane to New York. Within 12 hours, she was sitting in a room with the most powerful people on Earth, all of them looking at her like she had the answers they needed. She did not have answers. Nobody did. "We have known about alien life for only 2 years," said the Secretary General, a tired-looking man named Paul Crawford. "We have barely begun to understand that we are not alone. And now they want us to send someone to speak for all of humanity?" Catherine nodded. She was 53 years old and had spent her entire career as a diplomat. She had talked to dictators and presidents, rebels and kings. She had ended wars and started peace treaties. But this was beyond anything she had ever imagined. "The message says it is not optional," she said. "I think we need to take that seriously." A general sitting across the table shook his head. "We should refuse. This could be a trap. We know nothing about these aliens or what they want." "If they wanted to harm us, they would not need to invite us anywhere," Catherine replied. "They clearly have technology far beyond ours. If they wanted us dead, we would already be dead." The room fell silent. It was not a comforting thought, but it was true. After 3 days of arguments and debates, the decision was made. Catherine would go. She would represent humanity before this Galactic Council, whatever that meant. She would have one assistant, a young man named Daniel Price, who had worked with her for 5 years and who she trusted completely. On the day the alien ship arrived, Catherine stood on a platform at the Luna base and watched it descend from the darkness of space. It was beautiful in a strange way, all smooth curves and lights that shifted like living things. It was also terrifying. The ship was larger than any building on Earth, and it moved without any sound at all. A door opened in the side of the ship, and Catherine walked toward it without looking back. Daniel followed close behind her, his face pale but determined. The inside of the ship was nothing like she had expected. There were no cold metal walls or flashing computers. Instead, the corridors were warm and soft, almost like walking through a living creature. The light came from everywhere and nowhere, and the air smelled like flowers she could not name. A creature was waiting for them. It was tall and thin, with skin like blue glass and eyes that had no pupils. When it spoke, its voice seemed to come from inside Catherine's head rather than from its mouth. "Welcome, humans. I am Coordinator Saris. I will take you to Station Paramount. The journey will last 42 of your days. Please follow me to your quarters." Catherine had 1,000 questions, but she held them back. There would be time for questions later. Right now, she needed to watch and learn. The quarters they were given were comfortable. There were beds that adjusted to their bodies, food that appeared when they were hungry, and windows that showed the stars streaming past like rivers of light. Catherine spent hours at those windows, watching the universe go by and thinking about what lay ahead. Daniel spent his time differently. He studied. The ship had some kind of information system, and he figured out how to use it. Day after day, He read about the Galactic Council and the species that made it up. "There are 17 of them," he told Catherine one evening. 17 species that have ruled this part of the galaxy for 12,000 years. They call themselves the Elder Races. "What do they want from us?" Catherine asked. "That is the part I do not understand," Daniel said, frowning at his data pad. "They seem to assess new species when they discover them. They decide what role each species will play in galactic society. Some become traders, some become workers, some become soldiers. It is like they are sorting everyone into categories." Catherine thought about this for a long time. "And what happens to species that do not fit into their categories?" Daniel looked uncomfortable. "The records do not say, but there are references to species that no longer exist, species that were deemed too dangerous or too unstable to be allowed to continue." The words hung in the air between them. As the days passed, Catherine learned more and more. She learned about the Velthari, who saw themselves as philosophers and leaders. She learned about the Krethok, massive reptilian creatures who served as the Council's military force. She learned about the Mindori, small insect-like beings who controlled all trade and commerce in the region. Each species had a role. Each species had accepted its place in the grand order of things. Catherine wondered what place the Council had in mind for humanity. On the last day of the journey, Coordinator Saris came to their quarters. For the first time, Catherine saw something like emotion on its strange face. It looked almost worried. "Ambassador Cole," it said, "I must tell you something. The Council has already made certain decisions about your species. They have studied you from a distance for many years. They know about your wars, your weapons, your capacity for both creation and destruction." "And what have they decided?" Catherine asked. Saris was quiet for a moment. "They are afraid of you, not of what you are now, but of what you might become. You grow so fast, change so quickly. In just a few thousand years, you went from throwing rocks to splitting atoms. No other species in Council history has developed so rapidly." Catherine felt a chill run down her spine. "What does that mean for us?" "It means that the next few days will determine the future of your entire species," Saris said. "Choose your words carefully, Ambassador. The Council is watching." Then it turned and walked away, leaving Catherine alone with her thoughts and the weight of 8 billion lives on her shoulders. Station Paramount appeared in the window the next morning, and Catherine understood why they called it that. It was not just a station, it was a world unto itself. A massive structure that sparkled with lights and movement. Ships of every size and shape moved around it like fish swimming around a reef. Catherine took a deep breath and prepared herself for whatever was coming. She had no idea how much everything was about to change. The Council chamber was designed to make visitors feel small. It worked. Catherine walked into a room so vast that clouds actually formed near the ceiling. The dome stretched a kilometer above her head, covered in glowing murals that showed the histories of species she had never seen. 17 platforms rose in a circle around a small stage in the center, and on each platform sat beings that looked nothing like her. The Velthari were tall and graceful, their skin shifting colors with their moods. The Krethok were massive, covered in dark scales, and watching her with predator eyes. The Mindori clicked and chattered among themselves, their many legs tapping against their platform. There were others she did not recognize, creatures of light and shadow, and forms that her mind struggled to understand. And at the center of it all, standing on that small circular stage, were 2 humans, Catherine and Daniel, alone and exposed. The high speaker of the Velthari rose from his seat. His voice filled the chamber without any visible effort, and Catherine realized that some kind of technology was carrying his words directly into her mind. Species, designation, human, origin world, Earth. Technological status, newly interstellar. The Galactic Council will now assess your kind for integration into galactic civilization. Ambassador Cole, you will answer our questions truthfully and completely. Begin. Catherine had expected questions about their technology, their government, their resources. She was wrong. The council wanted to know about everything. They asked about human music and art, about religion and philosophy, about love and death and the meaning humans gave to their lives. They asked about the earliest cave paintings and the latest scientific discoveries. They wanted to know how humans raised their children and how they buried their dead. For hours, Catherine talked. She told them about Shakespeare and Einstein, about the pyramids and the moon landing. She described the beauty of a sunset over the ocean and the terror of war in the trenches. She explained democracy and dictatorship, capitalism and communism. She held nothing back. Some of the council members seemed fascinated. Others seemed disturbed. The Krethok representative, a massive creature who called himself Vorn, watched her with eyes that never blinked. On the second day, the questions became harder. A Mindori minister leaned forward, its voice like dry leaves blowing in the wind. Your species has created weapons capable of destroying your entire planet, not once, but many times over. You have built enough nuclear devices to burn your world to ash. Why would any sane species do such a thing? Catherine took a moment to choose her words. Fear. We were afraid of each other, and we built weapons to protect ourselves. It was not our finest moment, but we have also worked to reduce those weapons. We understand how dangerous they are. And yet, you still have them, the Mindori pressed. You did not destroy them all. Why? Because the universe is large, Catherine said quietly, and we did not know what else might be out there. The chamber fell silent. Several council members exchanged looks that Catherine could not read. The third day was the worst. Vorn. The Krethok rose from his platform and stepped to the edge, looming over Catherine like a mountain about to fall. His voice was deep and harsh, like stones grinding together. Your species has been at war with itself continuously for your entire recorded history. You have committed genocide against your own kind. You have tortured and enslaved each other. You have burned cities and salted fields. You are, by any reasonable measure, a violent and dangerous species. Catherine felt Daniel stiffen beside her, but she kept her voice calm. We have done terrible things. I will not deny that. But we have also done wonderful things. We have shown compassion and courage. We have sacrificed ourselves for strangers. We have fought against tyranny and oppression. Words, Vorn growled. Pretty words to cover ugly truth. Your history speaks for itself. You are killers. We are survivors, Catherine replied, and now there was steel in her voice. Every challenge we have faced, we have overcome. Every enemy that has tried to destroy us has failed. Yes, we have fought each other, but we have also learned from those fights. We are not what we were 1,000 years ago, or even 100 years ago. We grow. We change. We become better. Another council member spoke up, a being made of shifting, light patterns that Catherine did not recognize. You speak of change, but our records show that your fundamental nature has not changed in 10,000 years. You still divide yourselves into groups. You still fear those who are different. You still resort to violence when other methods fail. That is because we are not finished yet, Catherine said. We are a young species. You have had 12,000 years to build your civilization. We have had a fraction of that time. Give us the chance to prove ourselves, and we will surprise you." The light being made a sound that might have been laughter. "Your optimism is noted, but the Council does not make decisions based on what a species might become. We judge you by what you are." The questions continued until Catherine's voice grew hoarse and her legs ached from standing. Daniel tried to help when he could, offering facts and figures to support her answers, but it was clear that the Council had already formed opinions about humanity. On the final day of assessment, the High Speaker called for silence. "Ambassador Cole," he said, "we have heard your testimony. We have studied your history and your culture. We have seen what your species has accomplished and what it has destroyed. Before we deliberate, we offer you one final opportunity. Is there anything else you wish to say?" Catherine looked around the chamber. She saw curiosity in some faces, contempt in others, and fear in more than a few. These beings had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. They had seen species rise and fall. To them, humanity was just another young race to be sorted and controlled. But Catherine refused to see it that way. "Only this," she said. "You have asked me many questions about what humans have done, but you have not asked the most important question of all. You have not asked what we dream of." The High Speaker tilted his head. "Dreams are not relevant to our assessment." "Then you are assessing us wrong," Catherine replied. "Because everything we have ever accomplished started as a dream. We dreamed of flying, and we built aircraft. We dreamed of reaching the stars, and here I am, standing before you. We dream of things that do not exist, and then we make them real. That is what it means to be human." She paused, looking at each council member in turn. "You see our wars and our weapons, and you see a dangerous species. But those same traits that make us dangerous also make us extraordinary. We fight because we refuse to give up. We build weapons because we refuse to be helpless. We argue and compete because we refuse to accept that any problem is unsolvable." The chamber was utterly silent. "You have ruled this part of the galaxy for 12,000 years, Catherine continued. "In that time, how many great challenges have you faced? How many impossible problems have you solved? Because I promise you this. Give humanity 1,000 years among the stars, and we will change everything. We will cure diseases you have accepted as permanent. We will reach places you have deemed unreachable. We will find answers to questions you have stopped asking." She took a deep breath. "We are not asking for your permission to exist. We are asking for the chance to show you what we can become. Judge us fairly, and you will not regret it." The High Speaker raised his hand, and Catherine knew that her time was over. "The Council will now deliberate. You will be informed of our decision." Catherine nodded and walked out of the chamber, with Daniel at her side. Her heart was pounding, but her head was high. She had done everything she could. Now all she could do was wait. The waiting was the hardest part. Catherine and Daniel were taken to a set of rooms in a distant part of the station. The rooms were comfortable enough with soft beds and pleasant lighting and food that appeared whenever they wanted it. But the doors did not open from the inside, and the windows showed only the empty darkness of space. They were not guests. They were prisoners, waiting for their fate to be decided. Daniel spent the first few days trying to access the station's information systems, but nothing worked. They were cut off from everything, isolated in their small corner of the universe. "What do you think they will decide?" he asked Catherine one evening, as they sat together looking out at the stars. Catherine shook her head. "I do not know. I thought the assessment went well at times, but then I would see the way some of them looked at me, like I was a dangerous animal that needed to be put in a cage." The Krethok especially, Daniel said grimly. Vorn seemed to hate us from the moment we walked in. Not hate, Catherine corrected him. Fear. He is afraid of what we might become. They all are. The days stretched into a week, then 2 weeks. Catherine began to pace her room at night, unable to sleep. She ran through every word she had spoken in the council chamber, wondering if she should have said something different, if there was anything that could have changed their minds. She thought about Earth, about the 8 billion people who had no idea that their future was being decided by aliens they had never met. They were going about their lives, working and laughing and falling in love, while Catherine sat in this room and waited. She had never felt so alone. On the 15th day, Coordinator Saris appeared at their door. Its blue glass skin was darker than Catherine remembered, and its movements were slow and careful. The council has reached a decision, it said. You are summoned to the chamber. Catherine stood and straightened her jacket. Her hands were shaking, but she forced them to be still. Whatever was coming, she would face it with dignity. The chamber looked different now. The murals on the ceiling seemed dimmer, and the platforms of the council members cast long shadows across the floor. The 17 representatives sat in perfect stillness, watching as Catherine and Daniel took their place on the central stage. The High Speaker rose. Species designation human. The Galactic Council has completed its assessment and reached a verdict regarding your integration into galactic civilization. Catherine held her breath. Your species has demonstrated remarkable intelligence and creativity. You have shown an ability to adapt and overcome that is rare among young races. Your art and culture contain genuine beauty, and your scientific achievements are impressive for a species of your age. Catherine felt a small spark of hope in her chest. However, the High Speaker continued, and the spark died, you have also demonstrated a dangerous level of aggression and instability. Your history is filled with violence. Your weapons are capable of mass destruction. Your tendency toward tribalism and conflict shows no signs of changing. The Velthari paused, and Catherine saw something like regret in his shifting eyes. After careful deliberation, the Council has determined that humanity is not ready for full membership in galactic civilization. The risk is too great. Your species is too unpredictable, too dangerous to be allowed to spread among the stars without restraint. Daniel made a small sound of protest, but Catherine silenced him with a touch on his arm. She needed to hear this. All of it. Therefore, the High Speaker said, humanity will be designated a protected species under Galactic Council authority. You will be confined to your home system. Your moon will host a Krethok peacekeeping force to ensure compliance with this decision. Any attempt to develop faster-than-light travel will be prevented. Any attempt to leave your system will be met with appropriate force. Catherine felt cold. Protected species. The words sounded almost kind, but she understood what they really meant. Humanity would be caged, controlled, watched over like animals in a preserve. Their future would be decided not by themselves, but by these alien beings who thought they knew best. This decision is not permanent, the High Speaker continued. In time, perhaps several thousand of your years, you may be reassessed. If your species has matured sufficiently, if you have learned to control your violent impulses, you may be granted greater freedoms. But for now, this is the Council's verdict. The chamber fell silent. Catherine could feel the eyes of 17 species upon her, waiting for her response. She thought about everything she had said during the assessment. She had spoken of human dreams and human potential. She had argued that humanity deserved a chance to prove itself, and they had listened politely and then decided to lock humanity away forever. Anger began to build in her chest, not hot and wild, but cold and sharp, like a blade being forged in ice. Ambassador Cole, the High Speaker said, do you understand the Council's decision? Catherine raised her head and looked directly at him. I understand it perfectly. Do you have any questions? Only one, Catherine said. What happens if we refuse? A murmur ran through the chamber. The Krethok representative leaned forward, his eyes gleaming. Refuse? The High Speaker said. There is nothing to refuse. This is not a negotiation. This is the verdict of the Galactic Council, and it will be enforced. By force, Catherine said flatly. If necessary, yes. We have made this decision for your own protection as much as for the protection of other species. Young races often destroy themselves before they reach maturity. We are giving you the chance to survive long enough to become something better. Catherine nodded slowly. She understood now. The Council did not see humanity as partners, or even as enemies. They saw humans as children, too foolish and dangerous to be trusted with their own future, and they expected humanity to thank them for it. I see, Catherine said. You have studied our history. You know about our wars and our weapons. You think you understand us. We have observed your species for many years, the High Speaker replied. We know your nature. Then you should know this, Catherine said, and her voice grew harder with every word. In all of our history, whenever someone has tried to take away our freedom, we have fought. It does not matter if they were stronger than us. It does not matter if we were outnumbered. We fight because freedom is more important to us than survival. The chamber grew very quiet. You talk about protecting us from ourselves, Catherine continued. But you are not protecting us. You are caging us, and I promise you, we will not stay in that cage. Vorn the Krethok rose to his feet. Is that a threat, human? Catherine looked at him without fear. It is a statement of fact. You can put your soldiers on our moon. You can point your weapons at our planet. But you cannot break our spirit. And sooner or later, we will find a way out. The High Speaker raised his hand. Ambassador Cole, you are speaking recklessly. Your species has no fleet, no advanced weapons, no allies. You are in no position to defy the Galactic Council. Not yet, Catherine said quietly. But we learn fast. She turned to look at all 17 representatives, meeting their eyes one by one. You have made your decision. Now I will make mine, and I promise you, the Galactic Council will remember this day. The High Speaker's colors shifted to something dark and troubled. What exactly do you intend to do, Ambassador? Catherine smiled, and there was no warmth in it. You will find out soon enough. The chamber waited in tense silence as Catherine stood on that small stage, surrounded by beings who had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. Daniel stood beside her. His face pale, but his jaw set firm. They were 2 humans against 17 species, and the odds could not have been worse. But Catherine Cole had never cared much about odds. Before I continue, she said, I want to thank the Council for their hospitality. You brought us across the stars, you listened to our testimony, and you deliberated carefully before reaching your decision. Her voice was calm, almost pleasant, like she was addressing a business meeting rather than an alien tribunal. I respect the process, even if I reject the outcome. The High Speaker tilted his head. You reject the outcome? Ambassador, the verdict has been delivered. There is nothing to reject. There is where you're wrong, Catherine replied. You see, the Council seems to have misunderstood why I came here. You assumed that humanity was seeking your approval, that we needed your permission to take our place among the stars. She paused, letting the words settle over the chamber. We were not asking for permission. We came as a courtesy, hoping to establish friendly relations with our galactic neighbors. We came in good faith, willing to learn and to cooperate. But we did not come to beg. The Mindori trade minister clicked impatiently. Fine words, Ambassador, but they change nothing. Humanity is a young species with no power to enforce its will. Your good faith is noted but irrelevant. Is it? Catherine asked softly. Let me tell you something about humanity that your observers may have missed. We do not measure ourselves by what we have. We measure ourselves by what we are willing to fight for. She began to pace slowly across the stage, her footsteps echoing in the vast chamber. Your council has ruled this region for 12,000 years. You have seen species rise and fall. You have sorted them into roles and assigned them places in your grand order, and it has worked, more or less. You have maintained peace and stability across countless worlds. Catherine stopped and faced the High Speaker directly. But you have never met a species like us. You have never encountered a race that refuses to accept its assigned place. You have never faced a people who would rather die fighting than live on their knees. Vorn. The Krethok laughed, a harsh sound like rocks breaking. Every young species says such things. They all believe they are special, unique, destined for greatness. And they all learn the truth eventually. Power is what matters. You have none. Power comes in many forms, Catherine replied. You have ships and weapons. We have something else. She tapped her chest. We have fire in here. A fire that cannot be extinguished by force. A fire that has burned through every obstacle our history has placed before us. She turned to address the entire council. You studied our history. You saw our wars. But did you understand what you were seeing? Every time a tyrant rose to conquer us, we fought back. Every time an empire tried to crush our spirit, we broke free. We have been invaded, enslaved, bombed, and starved. And we are still here. Her voice grew stronger, filling the chamber. Do you know why? Because there is something in humans that will not submit. Something that looks at impossible odds and says, I will try anyway. Something that would rather burn than bow. The light being spoke up. These are emotional appeals, Ambassador. They do not change the practical reality of your situation. Practical reality? Catherine repeated. Let me tell you about practical reality. Right now, back on Earth, there are scientists working in laboratories. There are engineers designing new technologies. There are soldiers training for battles they hope will never come. And every single one of them, if they knew what was happening in this chamber, would tell you the same thing. She pointed at the High Speaker. We will not accept this. We will never accept this. The chamber erupted in murmurs and protests. Catherine waited until the noise died down. You want to put soldiers on our moon? Fine. Send them. We will smile at them and shake their hands and invite them to dinner. And every day, we will be learning, studying, figuring out how your technology works. Because that is what humans do. We learn. We adapt. We overcome. This is madness, the Mindori minister hissed. You are proposing to defy the entire Galactic Council. It would be suicide. No, Catherine said. Suicide would be accepting your verdict. Suicide would be telling 8 billion people that their dreams do not matter, that their children will grow up in a cage, that humanity's story ends here in this chamber. She straightened her spine and lifted her chin. I would rather die than deliver that message. And I am not alone. If you try to cage humanity, you will face resistance from every single human being who has ever looked up at the stars and dreamed of reaching them. The High Speaker rose slowly from his seat. His skin had shifted to a deep, troubled purple. Ambassador Cole, You are making a grave mistake. The Council's patience is not unlimited. If you continue down this path, there will be consequences. I understand, Catherine said, and I accept those consequences. She took a deep breath. On behalf of the United Earth Government, and on behalf of every human being who has ever lived or will ever live, I hereby reject your verdict. The chamber went dead silent. Furthermore, Catherine continued, her voice ringing like a bell, I declare that any attempt to enforce this verdict will be considered an act of war against humanity. Any ships that enter our system without permission will be treated as hostile. Any soldiers that set foot on our moon will be viewed as invaders. Vorn surged to his feet. You dare threaten the Council? You have nothing. No fleet, no weapons, no... We have ourselves, Catherine cut him off. And that has always been enough. She turned to face the Krethok directly, showing no fear despite the massive creature looming above her. You think you know what humans are capable of? You have no idea. Push us, and you will find out. Try to crush us, and you will create an enemy that will never stop coming. Because that is what we do. When the world burns around us, we do not give up. We do not surrender. We find a way to win. Catherine looked around the chamber one final time. This council has ruled for 12,000 years. Perhaps it is time for a change. Perhaps the galaxy needs something new. Something that does not fit neatly into your categories. Something dangerous and unpredictable and utterly, completely free. She smiled, and it was the smile of someone who had nothing left to lose. Humanity is going to reach the stars. We are going to build ships that can cross the galaxy. We are going to meet new species and make new friends. And we are going to do it on our own terms, not yours. Daniel stepped forward to stand beside her, his fear replaced by something that looked like pride. We came here hoping to be your friends, Catherine said. We still hope for that. But we will never be your subjects. We will never be your pets. And we will never ever stop fighting for our freedom. She raised her head high. So here is my declaration to the Galactic Council. We are humanity. We bow to no one. And if you want to stop us, you are going to have to kill every last one of us. Even then, I am not sure it would be enough. The silence that followed was absolute. Not a single being in that vast chamber moved or spoke. Then Catherine turned and walked toward the exit, Daniel at her side. Behind her, the Galactic Council sat in stunned disbelief. The universe would never be the same. The doors had barely closed behind Catherine and Daniel when the council chamber exploded into chaos. 17 species shouted over each other, their voices mixing into a storm of anger and confusion and fear. The translation system struggled to keep up, creating a wall of noise that shook the ancient walls. Vorn the Krethok was the loudest, his massive fist slamming against his platform hard enough to crack the stone. This is an outrage. A species of primitives dares to threaten the Council? I demand immediate military action. Send the fleet to their system and burn their cities to ash. And prove everything she said about us? The Mindori minister shot back. She accused us of being tyrants who crush anyone who disagrees. If we destroy them now, we become exactly what she claimed we were. Then what would you suggest? Vorn growled. Let them go? Pretend this never happened? The High Speaker raised his hand, and slowly, painfully, the chamber fell quiet. What has happened here today is unprecedented, he said. His skin had settled into a gray color that Catherine would not have recognized, but that every council member understood as deep distress. In 12,000 years, no species has ever rejected a council verdict. No species has ever declared war in this chamber. Because no species has ever been so foolish, Vorn muttered. Or so brave, the light being replied quietly. Several council members turned to stare at it. I am not defending her actions, but I find myself wondering if perhaps we have misjudged this species. Misjudged them? Vorn laughed bitterly. She just proved everything we said about them. They are violent, aggressive, unable to accept authority. This is exactly why they must be contained. And yet, another council member spoke up, a creature that resembled a tree made of crystal. She also showed courage, conviction, and loyalty to her people. These are not insignificant qualities. The debate continued for hours. Some called for war, some for patience, some for a complete reassessment of the situation. But beneath all the arguments, one truth hung in the air that no one wanted to speak aloud. They were afraid, not of human weapons or human ships, not of any military threat that humanity could currently pose. They were afraid of what humanity represented, a species that would not bend, a species that looked at the vast power of the Galactic Council and said no. If humanity could do it, other species might try. The carefully constructed order that had held the galaxy together for millennia might begin to crack. Finally, the High Speaker called for silence. We will not make any immediate decisions. Ambassador Cole and her assistant will be allowed to return to Earth. We will observe and wait. Perhaps in time, cooler heads will prevail. And if they do not, Vorn demanded, if they continue to defy us? The High Speaker was quiet for a long moment. Then we will do what must be done. But let us hope it does not come to that. Far across the station, Catherine sat in her quarters and waited. She did not know what was happening in the council chamber, but she could guess. Right now they were arguing about what to do with her, with humanity, with the small blue world that had dared to stand up to the rulers of the galaxy. Daniel was pacing back and forth, his face tight with worry. They are going to attack us, he said. You just declared war on the most powerful alliance in existence. They have thousands of ships. We have 3. It will be a massacre. Maybe, Catherine said calmly. Or maybe not. How can you be so calm? We could have doomed our entire species. Catherine looked at him with tired eyes. What was the alternative, Daniel? Accept their verdict? Go back to Earth and tell everyone that we have to stay in our cage like good little children? That our dreams of reaching the stars are over before they even began? Daniel stopped pacing. He had no answer. I did not ask for this, Catherine continued. I did not want to stand in that chamber and threaten beings who could destroy us with a wave of their hand. But when I heard their verdict, something inside me broke. I could not accept it. I could not betray everything that humanity has ever been. She stood and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. We are a young species. We have made terrible mistakes. We have done awful things to each other and to our world. But we have also done beautiful things. We have created art that makes people weep with joy. We have cured diseases and built wonders and reached beyond everything we thought was possible. She turned back to Daniel. The council wanted to take that away from us. They wanted to lock us in our system and wait for us to become whatever they thought we should become. And I could not let that happen, even if it costs us everything. Daniel was quiet for a long time. Then he nodded slowly. So what happens now? Catherine smiled faintly. Now we go home. We tell our people what happened, and we prepare. Prepare for war. Prepare for whatever comes. War, peace, something in between. The council has never faced anything like us. They do not know how to handle a species that refuses to follow their rules. That uncertainty is our greatest advantage. The door opened, and Coordinator Saris entered. Its skin was pale, almost translucent. Ambassador Cole, the Council has decided to allow you to return to Earth. A transport vessel will take you home within the hour. Thank you, Catherine said. May I ask what else they decided? Saris hesitated. They are still debating. Some wish to punish you. Others counsel patience. For now, nothing will be done. Catherine nodded. That is all I can ask. She and Daniel gathered their few belongings and followed Saris through the winding corridors of the station. Beings of every shape and size stopped to stare at them as they passed. Word had spread. Everyone knew what the human ambassador had done. Some looked at them with contempt. Some with pity. But Catherine noticed something else in a few faces. Something that might have been respect or hope. At the docking bay, Saris paused. Ambassador Cole, may I speak freely? Catherine nodded. In all my years serving the Council, I've never seen anything like what happened today. You did something that I would have thought impossible. You shook the foundations of an order that has stood for 12,000 years. Is that a compliment or a warning? Saris made a sound that might have been a laugh. I am not sure. Perhaps both. It stepped closer, its voice dropping to a whisper. But I will tell you this. Not everyone on the Council agrees with what they have done. Not everyone believes that controlling and constraining is the right path. Your words today reached more ears than you know. Catherine felt a small spark of hope. Then there may be allies out there. Perhaps. But be careful, Ambassador. The galaxy is a dangerous place, and you have made powerful enemies. Saris stepped back. Safe travels, Catherine Cole. I have a feeling we will meet again. The journey home took 6 weeks. Catherine spent most of it thinking about what she would say when she returned. How do you tell 8 billion people that you have challenged the rulers of the galaxy? How do you prepare a world for a conflict that might span centuries? But when the ship finally entered the solar system, when she saw the blue and green jewel of Earth hanging in the darkness, she felt something settle in her heart. This was worth fighting for. This small world and the 8 billion souls who called it home. The dreams they dreamed and the futures they hoped for. All of it was worth any risk, any sacrifice. As the ship approached Earth, Catherine looked out the window one last time. We are coming home, she said softly. And nothing in this universe will ever cage us. Somewhere out among the stars, the Galactic Council was still debating what to do about humanity. They did not yet understand what they had awakened. They did not yet realize that the small species from the small blue world would change everything. But they would learn. Catherine Cole smiled and prepared to deliver the most important message in human history. The age of submission was over. The age of humanity had begun.